So I was reading an article that came out at the end of last week that really got me thinking, and I thought, I've got to share this with you because at first it doesn't sound like PR, and yet it's just yet another reason why PR is just going to be essential for the future. I was saying the other day that I was talking about how PR is going to be vital to help sales teams by providing air cover for them so that they can go into sales pitches with people already knowing what your organization is about. And by doing that, there's far more chance that they're actually going to get a successful sale. Well, there's another reason why you're going to need PR in the future, and that is with websites and search engine optimization. Now, hang on. If this sounds technical, don't worry, because this is still about PR. Because there was a really interesting article that I came across that came out last week, but I just read this morning from Search Engine Land, talking about how Google's organic search usage is dropping quite significantly. And there's all kinds of predictions that this is going to drop faster and faster. And it's going to be replaced by AI-driven platforms, which are still quite small in comparison at the moment, but they are advancing fast and could soon take over how we search for information online. The point is that AI is going to prioritize authoritative content. So relying on the old SEO strategies, if you've ever been involved in anything like that, search engine optimization, was generally about sort of finding your keywords, looking for the core keywords and making sure that there are enough in your content that search engines would find it, think it's relevant, and then boost it up. But that kind of stuff is just not going to be able to cut it anymore as AI takes over, because AI is going to be focusing on delivering just a few highly credible sources, not pages of search results, not 200 results. So being in the top 20 won't matter. AI is going to be highlighting the 5 or fewer results, those that stand out as being the true authorities on it. So what does that mean from a PR point of view? If the company or your organization you work for wants their website to be discovered, to be heard about, it's going to be about you getting your organization seen as being that authority. Your organization needs to be recognized as that credible, trusted source, not just some data point that traditional search engines were scraping from the web. So what's the strategy behind this? The strategy here is shifting from optimizing for search engines to positioning your organization as a voice as authority that AI platforms are going to be picking up on. So for starters, yes, you've got to get that content on your website. But then the goal of the PR is going to be to get that stuff discussed by others. So as a PR person, it's going to be about getting, yes, traditional press, but also influencers and content creators to talk about what you're putting out. So it's got to be authoritative first, but you've got to explain why it's authoritative, and you've got to get them to talk about why it's authoritative too. So how can you apply this? Well, let's say you handle PR for a waste management company. In the past, you might have focused on putting out a press release in local news or industry journals, maybe doing some newsjacking and commenting on some other story that's out there, which definitely had value and might still have a little bit of value now. But the difference now is that what you want to be doing as that waste management company is coming up with that thought piece based on real evidence, on real research, real content, but then getting other people to talk about it. So you're not just pushing to traditional media, you are talking about collaborations. You're talking about guest blogs. You're talking about podcasts who are doing transcripts saying how and why this research or why you are so credible. It's got to be anyone you can get to talk about this in detail as to why you are the most credible voice. And using phrases like that, hyperbole, and saying we're great with no evidence, which used to work with a lot of pitches in the past, is not going to work with AI. It's going to be looking for that evidence. So it is about much more insightful PR and less of the fluff and waffle. To achieve the results with AI, it's going to mean that PR teams are going to need to focus on creating meaningful, in-depth content that positions your organization as a true authority. So I think the takeaway is clear. When you read this article and what they're saying is that in order to get search engine results of the past in the future with AI bots, it's going to be PR that is going to make that difference. It's going to be about creating content that AI will see as authoritative and credible. And it's then going to be really about getting other people to share that information and to explain why they think you are such an important, trusted source, and using real evidence insights to do that. There was one other takeaway, actually, which I noticed in there, which was the importance of writing things in a natural language way. And what I mean by that is that when you're writing the articles in the past, there was a sort of focus very much on keywords. You need to write something in a way that AI can easily understand when it scrapes. It needs to be clear. It needs to be something that AI can say, okay, I understand what they're saying, why they're saying it, why they're credible. So in short, if your organization isn't taking PR seriously and what you're doing seriously, then they are going to fall behind in their online presence. With the way that AI is coming along and the way that it's going to consider what results to put forward and who to mention, without having a strong PR effort behind it, they will fall behind. I just thought this was a really interesting article, and I really wanted to share it with you. I will put the link in the email version of the newsletter so you can have a look at that article as well, because there's a bunch of other points you might find interesting as well in there too. Okay, what else have I got? Oh yeah, that was it. I was going to do a scenario for you. A Thursday scenario, a bit of a fictional scenario for you to practice your PR skills with a bit of fun. Here we go. So this is a scenario I want to put to you to this week. You are managing the PR for a well-known national winery, and your boss has told you to convince both the wine community and the general public that this year's selection truly stands out as the best vintage yet. But the challenge is that people have heard this all before. Consumers are often skeptical, particularly in the wine world, thinking, of course, they say that every year. So there's this built-in perception that every new release is always hyped the same way. So why would anyone believe this year? So how are you going to get this across? How are you going to get across people to genuinely believe that this year's is the best vintage yet? As always with these scenarios, I've got just two options for you, and you have to pick one of them because obviously the temptation is to combine them. So number one, do you host an exclusive Behind the Harvest, a live-streamed event inviting critics, influencers, and loyal customers to experience side-by-side tastings of previous vintages versus this year's selection? In other words, showing firsthand the differences in taste and the quality and letting people see that. So your Behind the Harvest live-streamed event. Or do you launch a Year of a Lifetime campaign with numerous examples released over time, explaining why it's the best year? So, for example, explaining why the weather was so good with meteorologists, why the flavor worked out so well with the wine mixers, why the grapes were so good. What would you do? Would you do option one, that live streamed event, or would you do the series of examples? What I would do on this one, and as always, I'd love to know what you think of this one. I think the problem with the Behind the Harvest live stream event is it's a one-off event. Yes, there is potentially going to be journalists there and people coming along that could then go back and report about it and share the message. And I think that's going to be a really useful thing to do. But I just think the Year in a Lifetime campaign wins on a couple of points. One is that it's a series of updates which are done over time. And number two, because it's factually based. And, one of the things we've already addressed is the fact that people don't trust the hyperbole. So by actually having a meteorologist and coming on and saying why, the sun has been accurate and has been good on the field this year, why that's made the difference, why, and then maybe getting in, the wine mixer. I don't know what the technical term is for the wine mixer. The person to come along and say why they've changed it this way and how they've actually done it. Getting the farmer who's actually getting the grapes out the ground and what's changed about it. But basically by adding up lots of evidence steps that you're releasing over time and then releasing those obviously on, to the media as well and all this. By actually providing those evidence steps, I prefer this because it's over time and it's justifying the claim behind why it's the best year ever. It's not just saying it's the best year ever. It is genuinely giving the evidence to back that up. But what would you do? Always interested to hear what your thoughts are in these scenarios. Right, what else is worth mentioning? I've got to go and record Comms Question Time next with Helen, John, and Commel, which should be a good show. I think it's going to be a really good one. We've got a couple of really interesting scenarios to tackle as well. But anyway, more about that soon. In the meantime, have an absolutely awesome weekend. I will speak to you next week. And as always, if you want to connect with me, you can do so on LinkedIn by heading to or searching for Richard Midson, Midson. That's it for now. Speak to you real soon. Bye.